Welcome back to the channel, guys. Here we are. Yes, it's Christmas time. Yes, it's still in November. Don't have a beef with me. My wife loves those kind of things. Anyway, it does look gorgeous. Right, this episode, how much does my Tesla actually cost? Let's crack straight into it. Hopefully this is informative. You might be able to decide if you can afford one as well and join the Tesla revolution. The first cost, let's get it on the screen. We're not going to cover up the tree. We'll go this side with the mirror. The monthly cost, wait for it, place your bets, £776 per calendar month. Get that on the screen. Right, so I'll take you back to when I was thinking of buying one. At the time, when the 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance, so it's the UK variant, so yes, my American viewers, I have less power than you, I'm jealous, enough said. So when I was looking at one, Elon was putting about a 9% APR on them. At the time, you could put down a 0% deposit. I quite like to do that with my cars. If you want me to explain how my PCP kind of mind works, I can do, which will be quite informative, but we can save that for another video. So it was at about 9%. So the monthly cost was going to be up to about £1,200, which no, that would be silly. So I was waiting, because at the time, the long range variant and the standard range were both 0%. So I was desperate for the performance to also drop to 0%. And yes, it did. So one night I remember being back at home in Cornwall and it literally dropped to 0%. And it took around £400 to £450 off the monthly charge, bringing it down to 776. You can't get much for, you feel like a bargain in this day and age, but 0%. You've got to go for it, especially because I was in the market for one at the time. Now is the time to buy. So if you're looking at the new Model Y Juniper, you'll see that there's a percentage still on it at the moment. If you just hold your horses, the other variants are all on 0%. I promise you it will drop to 0% and it'll be so much of a better investment and you'll feel like you're getting some kind of a bargain. If you can just hold back for those couple of months of not having like the first ones in your kind of town or city. Next charge, so we've got 776 on the board. The next one is the Tesla Premium Connectivity, £10 per calendar month. There it is. I'm not going to go into what it is exactly. It basically opens up all the other features on the car effectively. By all means, Google it, have a look. £10 per calendar month. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I reckon there must be at least 90 to 95% of Tesla owners that pay for this charge. The world we live in nowadays, there's subscriptions for everything. I wouldn't be surprised if fridges should soon have a subscription on them. But the Tesla does, unfortunately. However, you need it, just pay it. It's £10 to go on the board. Okay, next up is maintenance and service costs. So this is where that initial payment of 776, a lot of people might have had a strong gasp inwards and not really enjoying that number, or it's very high. However, now with maintenance and service costs, and then talking about electricity next, this is where I start to make money back now, and it becomes far more reasonable. So let's get into maintenance and service costs first. So there's no beating around the bush. I've had the car for 18 months, or nearly 18 months. We've done just over 23,000 miles. So we've driven it pretty hard. Well, certainly hard with it being the performance. It hasn't left insane mode. Why the hell would it? Right, so this is a big fat zero. We'll put a zero on the board anyway for maintenance and servicing. The thing is in this one, if you have other, say, let's go for the German brands, because they're the kind of marker for luxury, quality, performance, and all that kind of thing. Even if you have those cars, the manufacturers still want you to bring them in for a service. I'm not sure what they're servicing, unless they're just pretending to look at it for a couple of hours to be able to then charge you 100, 200, 300 pounds. Tesla doesn't pretend to do any of that. There is no servicing. The only maintenance will be the cabin air filter. You can buy that from Tesla, official part, for £25. That is it. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there now to show you how to change it yourself as well. And the only other thing, if you want a real giggle, is the wiper blades. That's it. There's no messing around. So maintenance and servicing for me is zero currently. I don't see it being anything anytime soon. People might ask, well, what about my tires? It's a performance vehicle and EVs do shred tires because of the way they put their torque down. However, the Pirelli P0s are holding up fantastically. There's an awesome amount of tread depth still on them even after 23,000 miles. I must admit, for the first 10,000 miles, my wife and I are trying to give ourselves whiplash at every opportunity, or try and distract the other person and then plant your foot down. But we've kind of backed off from that a little bit now. Well, I have anyway. She's still trying to hurt my neck every time we go in it. Right then, electricity costs. So to go on the board with the 776, the £10, and then the zero maintenance is £42 per month on average. So you have to have a home charger, and I'm adamant about this. People will be trying to run them off. They call it granny charging and 3-pin charging, but you must have a home charger. You can't rely on the supercharger network. Well, you could, but you're going to degrade your battery faster, and it's going to cost more money. And then you're losing your kind of margins and the efficiency of the car. The whole point is charging it at home. So being in the military, as I've said a couple of times now in different videos, I do count my lucky stars. I got really lucky with this point. The home charger, the Royal Air Force over in England was offering a green incentive at the time to try and help people move across to electric cars, because that's more than what the government are doing at the moment. So they were offering free Zappy smart chargers, free installation, free box, everything done. So I've probably saved myself about £1,000 there. However, that doesn't mean you have to pay £1,000. One of my friends at work is on the verge of buying a Polestar, and as part of the deal, he gets a free home charger given to him. He'll still have to pay for the installation, I think, but still, there are good deals out there. The standard home charger in this country is 7.4 kilowatts, so that is more than enough to get the car charged through the night. I am with E.ON. There are plenty of other UK electricity suppliers. I'm not going to talk about them. I haven't researched them too well. I know little bits and bobs, but I'm just going to talk about my experience with E.ON and the price that I'm on. So I am currently on the Next Drive fixed version 6. So I get my cheap hours from midnight through till 7 in the morning at 6.7 pence per kilowatt hour. So let's say the wife has finished driving the car, or I have, but she does most of the miles. She comes home with about 40% of battery. Every night we top it up to 80%. So we get about 30 miles per 10%. So she might have used 120 miles in the day, which is quite a lot, and it still has 40% left at the end. So 40% of my usable battery. The car has a 74 kilowatt usable battery, so 40%, roughly 29.6 kilowatts. As I said, I'm getting 6.7 pence per kilowatt hour, so multiply those together and it equates to £1.98. And that is for almost 50% of the battery for less than £2. It is amazing. If you refer to the brilliant Tesla app, you have all your charging stats in there, and total overall, so not just home, but also the little bit of supercharging we've done, I've spent a total of £720 in about 18 months of owning the car. 95% of that has been at home, and that's why it is super cheap. That equates to around 3 pence per mile, which, I won't get political, but 3p per mile is currently on the tips of the tongue of everyone in England and the United Kingdom, because the current Labour government, who's trying to push you EV, but then smashing you more for going EV, is trying to introduce a 3p per mile usage on EVs. Lunacy. I know they need to make their money somehow, but they're trying to push. I'm not going into it. Political rubbish. Right, so it's about 3p per mile it works out as. Your average efficient car is probably running about 15 pence per mile for the ICE cars for a combustion engine. And put it this way, if you're trying to run a car that can keep up with that Tesla off the lights, which there aren't many out there anyway, and I mean nose for nose keeping up with it, you are paying a hell of a lot more than 3 pence per mile to run that vehicle, whatever it might be. Okay, so to catch back up, we've got 776, we've got the £10 premium connectivity, we've got £42 per month for the electric. Of course, the maintenance service was £0, and now we are on to insurance. So insurance is a huge thing. I'm not sure how much people in America pay for their insurance, but over in this country, it is quite extortionate, especially if you're a little bit younger. I'm not trying to be younger. Of course, you wouldn't believe me if I told you I was 41 now. It's obviously the moisturizer, but I am 41 now. So I get the aided benefit of, there's kind of an unwritten rule that as soon as you hit 25 in the United Kingdom, the insurance goes down a little bit. And of course, you prove yourself by getting no no claims bonus as you go along. So my insurance is £580 annually. So I pay annually, because if you break it into monthly payments, then of course it does come to a bigger total. We'll put that on the board. That's £48.50 per month. I'm currently with Hastings Direct. Whenever, I'm not an advisor, but I like to help people when I can. Whenever you take out insurance, find where the auto renew button is, and my God, headbutt it. Turn it off. Auto renewing should be illegal because of the markup. I'm sure they're just taking advantage of older people or people they're not sure what they're doing, and it's criminal, basically. Turn off auto renew, always shop around. I'm currently with Hastings Direct, and I'll probably move on to someone else after that. So, as I said, I'm 41. I've got 9 years, no claims. My wife is a named driver on the policy, and then have a play around with the numbers. I put my father on the policy, and it came down another 50 or 60 pounds. So why not? He's on the policy as well. Adding that one to the list, we have 776 for the monthly. We have £10 for the connectivity, £0 for the maintenance and servicing costs, £42 for the electric, £48.50 for the insurance, and now the final one of road tax. As I nearly alluded to, but I'm not going to get political in this, taxing EVs, road tax, and this new idea of 3 pence per mile. I mean, yeah, okay, if it happens, it happens. We'll wait out and see. But road tax. So up until April 2025, the 1st of April, EVs completely free, happy days. Everything was free. So from the 1st of April, they've announced that you're going to have to pay £195 per year. However, try buying an EV that's half decent for less than £40,000. I say £40,000, every one of my UK viewers should be aware of this, but for the American viewers, if the car is worth more than £40,000, you also then have to pay a luxury car tax. Keep in mind, this £40,000 has been in place since the start of 2017, so even with inflation now, it should have probably been at mid-50s, maybe high 50s. But if you buy a car that's more than £40,000, you are paying an extra £425 for the first 5 years of its life. So all of a sudden, you want to buy an EV. You've been convinced by people like myself or the government and listening to their spin on things that, okay, I'm going to go EV. You walk into any branded EV and all of a sudden they're saying, hang on, for the first 5 years of its life, you're going to have to pay £620. I don't get it. However, I got lucky. As you see, the stars aligning here. I am a lucky person for some reason. I bought mine back in July 24. So because of my car was free at the time for tax, I avoided the luxury car tax because it was free for an EV. However, there was also a tiny loophole, which I hope people did if they're watching this and they had an EV pre-April the 1st, 2025, was I went onto the government website in March 2025 and I went to tax my car. Of course, at this time it was free, but with this new system coming in, if I went on, put in my number plate, put in my VIN, brought up my details, and it said, oh no, but your car is already taxed. And I was like, no, I'd like to tax it, please. And it came up for 12 months, but of course at that moment in time, it was free. So I was like, yes, please, I will tax it for 12 months from March 25 for free. So at least I managed to somehow delay that £195 that I'm going to have to pay, at least until March 26. So it feels like I've got a small win over the government, but they're still going to get nearly £200 out of me at the start of next year. So on the list, the road tax was £0. That's what I've been paying. Obviously in the future, I would be paying a little bit, but currently nothing. So let's sum it up. Monthly cost, £776 for the car, £10 for connectivity, £0 for the maintenance and servicing, £42 for the electric, £48.50 for the insurance, and £0 for the road tax, giving me a grand total of £876.50 to be running my 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance and driving it however we want to drive it. We're not going efficiently or anything like that. So what do we think about that number? On initial take, it's a lot. However, I promise, I dare you to sit down with a pen and paper and work out how much you're paying, as long as you do have a monthly payment. Of course, if you've managed to pay your car off, then it is going to seem like a ludicrous amount, because if you don't have a monthly payment, but then your car's probably a few years old, it probably doesn't have any warranty, and you're just hoping that it starts and runs all the time. But that's your choice, and that's absolutely fine. However, if you have a monthly payment, cars nowadays are going silly money. your monthly payment is probably going to be around 300, at least £300, I imagine, 400, 500. If you've walked into a major dealership and got ripped off by them on their APRs of 11, 12, 13%, which is criminal again, when you could just get a personal loan with, say, Tesco with a club card for 6% at the moment, or something like that, then the big number all of a sudden doesn't seem too bad, because my servicing and maintenance and my electricity is effectively free. I don't feel the electricity because it just comes out of my monthly bill. And of course, electricity and gas bills, they fluctuate. You have a bit of debt, you have a bit of credit with them, and it just kind of comes and goes. Whereas going to the pumps every week, more than once a week, for £60, £70, £80, can very much add up, especially if you're trying to run a car which has equivalent performance to the one that's parked outside. Then you are paying a lot more than that. Reason why it worked for my wife and I, we'd gone down to one car with me being in the military and just cycling around to work. My wife was currently running a BMW 225 diesel, so a lovely engine in a little 2 Series coupe, brilliant car, but it was only worth about 14 or 15,000 pounds. Our monthly was about 300 pounds. We were putting about 300 pounds of fuel into it, and then obviously the servicing with BM and all that kind of stuff was adding up. So to go from, say, a 14,000 pound, a nice car, but nothing special, doesn't turn any heads, doesn't give you little butterflies or anything like that, to a 60,000 pound latest hyper machine was about 100 to 150 pounds a month more, all in, for us. So there you go, guys. I've been as honest as I possibly can. So that is exactly what I'm paying for that car. And I hope if you can make sense of all of this and it works in your current financial situation, then go for it. It is the best decision I've ever made. The car is glorious. And if all of a sudden you're thinking, well, the big 776 monthly payment is huge, and I don't need 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, no one really needs 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, then why don't I go for the long range all-wheel drive, which will still blow your mind with acceleration of 4.2 seconds, or you've got the long range rear wheel drive, or if you just want to come electric and just experience that gorgeous driving style, then you've got the standard range where you would actually save £20,000 on what I paid for my car. So there's options available for everybody. Of course, if you get the big 776 number down to a reasonable kind of number and still with no running costs, then Merry Christmas, you have won. Right guys, there we go. I hope I don't get too much stick in the comments for how much I'm paying for my car monthly, but with the ever increasing car prices nowadays in this day and age, I don't think I'm doing too badly. The deal seems pretty good. I'm more than happy, and not going to the pumps for surprise visits, say, put it that way, for £70, £80. You really feel it. It really, really works. I'm going to say cheerio, guys. Have fun. If you choose not to watch any more of my videos for any kind of reason, then Merry Christmas. Have a fantastic new year, and hopefully I'll see you in 2026. Cheers.